yo, I'm trippy and I'm double uploading today. Why? I don't know. I just felt like it, you know? And also, subscribe. You guys, we're on the verge of 300 subscribers. Just freaking subscribe. If you enjoy the content, subscribe. If you don't enjoy the content, then just freaking subscribe. Who cares? Also, if you guys are watching my content and you enjoy it somewhat, or it gets recommended, and every time it gets recommended you click on it, you might as well subscribe, bro. Just do it. Just do it. Come on. Let's just keep growing. Let's just keep growing the channel. Let's hit 1K soon. You know what I mean? That's the first goal. You know what I mean? So just subscribe. Let's keep the channel growing and let's keep the channel moving. But let's talk about Tyron Woodley versus Jake Paul. Out of all the fights that I've watched and enjoyed, this fight may be the hardest one to predict because there is a ton of unknowns. And we as the fight community may say we hate Jake Paul, but I'm not gonna lie, I enjoy when he fights because in my opinion, what is most important thing about promoting a fight is the unknown. It is having a superstar and putting him up against a serious challenge. Because you do have fighters who sell because of a name, and they fight a broomstick and a lot of people buy into it, but those type of fights will never sell as much as a fight where you have a superstar who you know is super talented or at least pretty good, and he fights a guy who not only has an impressive resume, but could really damage your superstar's career long term. So what are some of the unknowns when it comes to Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley? Well, first, we don't know how exactly Tyron Woodley is going to perform in a boxing ring. We've seen Tyron Woodley striking in MMA. He's very explosive and has extreme power, but watching him fight, I've never got the impression that he was a high-level striker or that he was very technical. But he does pick his shots well, and in my opinion, the main reason for the decline of Tyron Woodley is not because of his age or him slowing down as a fighter. It was more so people had methods of dealing with his pretty much one-dimensional striking game. Tyron Woodley, in terms of striking, is pretty much a one-trick pony. He has a nasty overhand right, but has impeccable timing when trying to land it. But the harsh truth when it comes to the striking game of Tyron Woodley is that most of the time when he does land that punch, it's because of his opponents is also fearing the high-level wrestling. So their focus is a bit divided between his power and his wrestling. Well, clearly in boxing you can't wrestle, so that takes one of Tyron Woodley's weapons completely away. So that is where his biggest unknown becomes apparent. How the heck is Tyron Woodley going to look when he can only punch? So while we're at it, let's go ahead and get both of the pros and cons out for these two. Jake Paul, on the other hand, has completely dedicated his life to boxing for about 3 years now. But that's it. Only 3 years, and has faced complete garbage competition. No other way to put it. Jake Paul has pretty much competed against walking punching bags. Nonetheless, completely gave his life to the sport and has sparred with IBF pro champions, apparently, and has been coached by very high-level boxing coaches with championship experience. We kind of have an idea of how Jake Paul boxes. He has very decent fundamentals, and his favorite punch is also an overhand right. He has decent speed, but the guy can punch. I will give him that. Jake Paul has exceptional power. He has a bit of unknowns too, though. Jake, can he take a punch? Does he have cardio to make it 8 rounds? And the biggest one of them all is, can he handle adversity? So while breaking down this fight, we can't talk about the unknowns because we don't know them, obviously. But we can talk about what we do know. Jake Paul is getting better with every single boxing match that he has been in, despite the fact he's fighting very lackluster competition. The last we've seen of Tyron Woodley is that he got finished in round 1. Tyron also hasn't won a fight in 3 years. Jake Paul has never been tested by someone with the athleticism, the explosiveness, and the striking capabilities of a guy, or power, of the guy like Tyron Woodley. Tyron, though being inexperienced in a boxing ring, is a 5-time UFC world champion and has competed against the best fighters in the world. Jake Paul has been boxing for a decent amount of time now and has been in the spotlight pretty much his whole life, but he is also experienced in the boxing ring with only 4 more fights than Woodley. So let me say this, the inexperience/experience on both sides is not going to matter very much. Tyron Woodley doesn't have to worry about the takedowns, getting clinched or kicked, or any of that. All he has to worry about is punches. I believe in this fight, Tyron Woodley may have developed some new tools such as like a jab and better hooks in terms of boxing, but I believe that he will ultimately fight very similar to the way he fights in mixed martial arts. Just lay back and wait to time that big right hand and try and knock out Jake Paul. Jake Paul, I believe, is going to come out and try and knock Woodley out early. And I don't mean by going out there recklessly and trying to brawl, but I believe that any chance he sees, or if he gets any openings, he's going to try and lay Woodley out with every punch he throws. I also believe Jake Paul will be the ring general, the one leading the dance. Tyron, in his prime of mixed martial arts, has been proven to be a difficult fighter to land on for the most part. So I believe the defense of Woodley is going to be a different challenge for Jake in the boxing ring. But I feel as if, though, Jake is going to try and land a lot of jabs and try to prove to be a better boxer with decent skill, but will ultimately try to set up that big overhand right. And Tyron Woodley will be looking to counter him with the same punch. So I believe that it will be a matter of who lands on who first, and most importantly, can they take each other's power? Because Jake has barely been hit, but Tyron Woodley has been through the ringer in terms of damage, and May has a severely damaged chin heading into this. But that's an unknown. So I believe they both have the same game plan, and that is going to be to knock each other out. Here's where the experience will only matter in this fight, and that is if Tyron Woodley gets hurt, he knows how to get through it. If Jake Paul gets hurt, he's probably going to deal with it very poorly. I'm not saying that he'll get finished, but I'm saying that he might make a mistake or a few bad mistakes due to the fact that he's very inexperienced when it comes to combat sports. So now let's talk about the cardio. If I'm being honest, I'm not too worried about Tyron Woodley being able to make it 8 rounds. I believe both fighters can fight at a pace that will survive 8 rounds, but I just believe that they both have a tendency of going for it early on and slowing down considerably later. But that's an unknown for Jake because we don't know if he can keep up that same pace for 8 rounds. I doubt it, but ultimately we don't know. That is why this fight is so interesting. There is a lot on the line for both guys in terms of their careers, but I have a feeling that Tyron is probably feeling it a lot more than Jake, because Jake always has a lot on the line and he always never gives a crap if he F's up. Tyron Woodley, if he loses, or if, and not only if he loses, if he gets knocked out by Jake Paul, his career is going to go down the toilet the same way Ben Askren's did. On a 4-fight losing streak, fighting against the best, right? And then he gets knocked out by Jake Paul. It's the same way as Ben Askren, getting knocked out 5 seconds, getting submitted by Damian Maia, and then getting knocked out by Jake Paul. His career literally goes the same way Ben Askren did. But let me know what you guys think. I'm excited for this fight, but I don't want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. Please subscribe and like and do all that good stuff. I'm your boy Trippy, and I'm out, man.